Hello and welcome to Next Tooth. My name is Arash and I'll be your instructor in this tutorial. Do you want to start a career inside Unreal Engine 5 but do not find an all-in-one package to learn it all? So I welcome you to Next Tooth's complete guide to Unreal Engine 5. In this course, we will cover two chapters. Of course, we have an introductory chapter, and for the second chapter, we create a cave scene. And in this cave scene, we go from blockout all the way to creating a finished environment. And then after that, we create an Archviz scene. In the cave scene, we start by the blockout to make sure that the composition and the level is working right off the beginning. And then we go for material editor and also cover the theory of PBR, physically based rendering, all the way into creating functioning materials that change in the runtime for every reason that you have. We go for nanite. And again, for nanite, we go from theory all the way to execution to bring in high polygon props into Unreal Engine 5 without any optimizations. Then after that, we go for Lumen, the new global illumination solution to light the scene. Of course, for people who are going to light their scene aesthetically and bake lighting, we have something for them as well. And after that, we learn about Niagara, the VFX creation system inside Unreal Engine 5, and create some particle systems. We go for blueprint to add a bit of interactivity in the scene, to create some game logic in the scene. And then after that, we begin the Archviz chapter and convert that and start to light it the Unreal Engine 5 way, using Lumen. And after lighting the scene, we again go for blueprints to create interaction for the customer. Can take the project and using the blueprint widgets, change things inside that. For example, changing the parameters from the materials or changing the materials on objects using blueprints. So if you are ready to start your journey in the world of Unreal Engine 5, join me in Next Tooth's complete guide to Unreal Engine 5. My name is Arash and looking forward to have a great learning experience together. Okay? See you there. Hello, and this is the final result that we are going to be creating. And I'm recording this after I finish the tutorial. But I'm here to show you that there's a project files section where you have taken this course, and you can go there and use them. Of course, since in here we're using mega scans and things like that, I'm not able to share the scene with you because it's against the laws, and Epic Games do not allow for sharing the mega scans assets. Of course, later on in the course, we will learn how to grab these for free. But I'm not going to be able to share the scene with you because it contains copyrighted props and things that I'm not able to share. But when you download the project files and extract them, you're going to get these. One is the file that contains the credits and links to the images that are used in this tutorial, and the author wanted to credit. And then we have this image section, which contains free images from the tutorial and where I have taken the ideas from. You're free to grab these with no problem, and you can use this to your own advantage, take ideas from them, or do your own reference thing and start to gather your own reference pack and start to create a new scene using these techniques that we learn. So after downloading those, you can jump in and start to create your scene. Of course, you can follow what I'm creating to create a one-on-one copy of this, or you can create a new scene based on the references that you gather. But the techniques are going to be the same. You have the freedom either to create a copy from this or create a new scene. Okay? With this out of the way, let's go and start creating. Hello and welcome to Unreal Engine 5. The software has been released and I'm in the stable version and a lot of improvements from early access version. And this is the city sample that you're seeing here. Do not worry if you do not have it. We're going to learn how to take this demo and use it. Okay, this is Unreal Engine 5.0, and it means that it's the first stable release. And if you remember, Unreal Engine 5 Early Access was released a year ago, and people had the chance to see the upcoming features of Unreal Engine 5 like Lumen and nanite and many more. But now Unreal Engine 5 has been released, and we're ready to really take a
good tutorial and learn a lot of things from Unreal Engine 5. So, since we are going to cover very basic beginner things and absolute beginners and also beginners and a bit of intermediate students as well, we're going to start from the beginning and first talk about how to install Unreal Engine 5. Okay, to download and install Unreal Engine 5, you'll simply head to unrealengine.com and hit this download button. It will take you to this session, to this page, the download page, which first is telling you the minimum required software and hardware in order to be able to run Unreal Engine 5 on your system. But of course, if you want to have a seamless experience without any problems, you really need to have more than this. This is just for the minimum. So to download Unreal Engine 5, first you need to download Epic Games Launcher. And it's there where you can download Unreal Engine 5 and sample projects. So first you hit download launcher and it's going to download the exe file for you. And when you install the launcher, it's pretty easy. Then you click on it and you get this window, the Epic Games Launcher. And in here, first you need to create an account if you do not have, or in my case, you need to log in if you already have an Epic Games account. And there are multiple ways to log in. So either you're going to create an account or sign in. So since I have account, I'm going to sign in here. So I'm going to sign in with my Epic Games account and enter my password and hit login now. And then you get this window. So to download Unreal Engine 5, you go to Library tab. And in here, if you have Unreal Engine installed, you can launch it from here, or if you do not have Unreal Engine 5, you need to click this plus icon so that it brings up the latest versions. Okay, but in here, since I have 5 Unreal Engine But since I have Unreal Engine 5 installed in here, it's going to bring up the latest released Unreal Engine in here, which is 4.27. If you do not have Unreal Engine 5, it's going to bring Unreal Engine 5, and then you need to click install in here. Just remember that you need to install Unreal Engine 5. But since we have Unreal Engine 5 in here, we cannot install a couple of versions. We need to install only once. So after clicking install, let's it's going to bring you an installation folder. You decide on the installation folder and the path and hit on install. It's going to download and give you the Unreal Engine 5 on your desktop after installing Unreal Engine. So I'm not going to install this. And since we have Unreal Engine 5 installed, let's open Unreal Engine 5. You hit launch and you get Unreal Engine 5 opened. And then you need to press launch to launch Unreal Engine. But it already just released an update, so I had to update Unreal Engine, and we will launch that after the updates. And to download the samples, including the city sample which I launched just now, you need to go to Samples tab and City Sample, and installing is just the same. And you get it in here. First, you need to download it, and then create a project. And creating the project is the same. First, you assign a direction for it and create, and it's going to download the project for you. And after that, create the project as well. And then after launching Unreal Engine 5, you get this window. And in here, you either have to select one of the projects that you previously created, or if you want to create a project, for example, for games, if you want it to be a first-person shooter or anything, you will start from here. These are a starter template that will help you get up fast and start running in Unreal Engine. So for now, we really do not care about this, and we're going to open the city demo. We hit browse in here and locate the city sample project, and you find the U project there. You hit open and it's going to bring up the city sample project. And there's a bit of guidance in here which tells that if you want to have ultimate experience in this, you want to have this hardware specifications for the city sample. And the maps are located in the maps folder. You go to content map folder, and from here you either want to select the big city or a small city. These are the same somehow, but this big city is more resource intensive. So I'm going to open that. And this is the city project that you get, and it's using full potential of Unreal Engine 5 up to now. And it's a great project. Download it, start to experiment, and learn a lot of things from it. But for now, we really do not care about the city map because this is a lot more complicated than you might think. But we are here only to discover the user interface of Unreal Engine 5. And we will do that in the next session. Okay, see you there. Okay, after updating Unreal Engine, now we are getting 5.0.1, which is, I believe, the first official update of Unreal Engine 5. So again, we are going to launch it. And here we are inside Unreal Engine Editor. And this is the editor window, which we are going to spend a lot of time in it. So let's give ourselves a bit of time to make ourselves familiar with this window. We have the menu bar up top here, which we can handle a lot of things about this editor in here. We're going to dive deeper into this later on. Then we have this menu bar, which contains some of the most common functions that we're going to use inside Unreal Engine. For example, the landscape editor, the foliage editor, the modeling, and things like that. Or if we are going to add some things in the Unreal Engine, we're going to add from here. For example, if we are going to add a light or if we are going to add cinematic camera, they're all going to be accessed in here. And then we have the blueprint icon, which is going to handle a lot of the blueprint work in the engine. And then we have the sequencer and we have the play button. And if you play this, you're going to be able to play inside your level. And using this platform, you can really package your game or send it to other platforms as well. Then we have this window which takes in a lot of the space, and this is called the level editor or level view. And you're going to be able to visualize the content of your level in this. And everything that we are going to put in the game is going to be visible in here. For example, these volumes, these static meshes, or basically anything that you have in the world. Then we have this outliner, which is a hierarchical list of anything that you have in the level. And everything that you have in the level has going to be listed in here. And then in here we have the details panel. And to be able to see what's inside, we need to select something. For example, if you select this window, this building, it's going to show all of the properties that are accessible for that specific actor. It's going to show them in here. Or if we create a light in the scene, for example, if you place a blue point light, it's going to show the properties of the light that we have added. So this is different based on the actors, the content that you're going to be seeing in here. Then we have the command in here, which you can write a specific command, and this is a bit of advanced topic to talk about. But there are lots of specific commands that you can add in here to customize and debug the look of your game. Then we have the output log, which is of course for debugging and seeing what errors and mistakes you have done in here. And as I said, mainly in the beginning, you really do not want to mess with this because this is of course a bit advanced topic. So normally for beginner users, you barely want to touch this. And then we have the content drawer in here, and the shortcut for that is Control and a space. And if you hit that, you're going to get the content browser, and it's a flying menu. And it means that if you click in the viewport, it's going to be gone to maximize the working space that you have. So whenever you have something to do in here, you simply hold Control and a space, and it's going to bring you this menu, and you go to your content folder, find what you want, and drag them into the scene and use them the way you fit. For example, let's find a static machine here. So let's say that you want to place something like this, and if you place it, the menu is gone. And this is good for maximizing the viewports for your game so that you are able to see more content in here. And if you want to dock that, you simply bring the menu up and hit dock in layout. And then it's going to be part of your viewport and it's going to stay there. If you want this to be this way. And if you want to make it gone, simply hit this icon and then it's gone. And then you can bring it back using control and a space bar. And then again, in this create panel in here, there are some dedicated content browser which you can drag. For example, bring this content browser and drag it into another screen if you have, for example, double a screen. So back to the viewport, and in this viewport, now we are in perspective mode. But just like any other 3D application, it has orthographic views as well. If you click on here, you can visualize from the top view, or go to bottom, left and right and front and back, just like any other 3D application. And the default view mode for this is the wireframe. And it's showing only the wireframe in the orthographic views. And if you want to see something else, for example, if you want the lid, you can choose to look from there. But we are seeing errors because we are now looking from the bottom. And it now doesn't look good in the top view as well. So let's go to perspective view. And in here also you can choose to look at only the base colors or at the wireframe, detail lighting, and we're going to be talking about all of these later on. Or lighting only, and many modes that it has. For example, for visualizing the nanite, also it has some visualization modes that can help you. So let's leave this be for later usages. And this was a quick overview of the UI of Unreal Engine 5, and in the next lessons we're going to dive a lot deeper into these. So see you in the next lessons. Okay, in previous chapter we briefly talked about the UI and basically what you see in when you first launch Unreal Engine. So now we are going to dive a bit deeper into multiple systems that Unreal Engine has to offer for creating games, visualizations, animation, movies, and etc. And depending on your workflow, you might use one of them or all of them together at the same time. And there are multiple windows when you might not use even once in your whole career. For example, the blueprint in here is responsible for visual scripting of the game. You might not even touch blueprints once in your whole career, but we are going to see what they are and what they do very briefly. And later on in their specific chapters, we are going to dive deeper and explain what each window does. Okay, the first window that you see that is taking up most of the space is the level editor. And basically, this is the result of everything that you create in Unreal. Everything that you add in the world is going to have a bit of effect into this level editor, so that in the end you get your product ready, no matter if it's a visualization, if it's a game, movie, or basically anything. And the results of other windows as well have effect in this level editor that you see here. For example, if in the material editor, for example, if you change a material in the material editor or do a basic scripting in blueprints, it's going to have effect in the level editor. So this is the final product that you're going to be creating. And whatever that you added in, then later on you can take them and manipulate them and create a level for yourself. And it's good to know that everything that you put in here is going to be called an actor. So have this word in mind, actor. And later on we will discuss about the meaning of actors and different actor types, but you should know that everything you put in here is going to be called an actor. And you put different actors in, no matter if it's a light or if it's a mesh or if it's a skeletal mesh blueprint, everything, you put them all together and the result is going to be called a level. So have the level in mind also. And the level is going to be the ultimate experience that you create for the player or for the customer if it's a visualization. And the process of doing that is called the level design. The process of adding actors, mixing them together, create a workflow, and creating the ultimate experience is going to be called level design. And basically, to create a game, you might want to have multiples of these levels in your scene. For example, creating objective for the player, for example, going from point 0 to point A, and then call it a level finished. And then after that, the player goes to the next level. And then later on, you can create another level and populate it with the logic, with the meshes, light, and anything so that the player can interact with it. And as I said, for a project, you might want to have multiple of these levels. And the level is saved as a .umap file, just like what you see in here, and you can find .umap files in your Windows Explorer. And it's like a container for everything that you see here. And think of that as a zip archive. What you see is a .zip file, but inside that you see multiple files. And the same goes for the .umap file that you see here. It contains a lot of the aspects for the game environment. And not only environment, it's going to hold a lot of static meshes, sounds, lights, visual scripting, and multitude of actors that you see here are present. They're going to be contained in that .umap file. And just a quick note, these are the UMAP files of the same level that you see here. It's a big underline city level, and this is big underline city level. And these are the maps in the Explorer. But of course, you really do not need to change any of these. All of the changes are going to be made in here and reflected on that file. And of course, there's a difference between .umap and .uproject files that you see in Unreal Engine folders. Let me again bring you to this level, and this is the Explorer file, and I'm gonna go to the root folder, and in here you see the city sample.u project, and this is the project itself, not the map, not the umap file. It's going to hold everything about that project. And although it's a 5 kilobyte file, but it has the link to all of the folders in here. And it's going to host basically everything that you have in your game, no matter if it's a material, a static mesh, and everything is going to be hosted in this file. And of course, the UMAP files also are a part of this. For example, if I go to the content, and in this map level, you see that UMAP files that have been hosted in here. So there's a distinction between the .umap and .u project, and we're going to talk about them later on. So up until now, we have been looking at the ready-made matrix level, which has been created by the team. So what we should do to create a new level and populate it with a lot of things. It's as simple as going to this file and new level. And it's not the only way. You can simply hold down Ctrl and N, then this menu comes up, and you can select from one of these presets and work on. And one more way to do that is going to Content Browser, right-clicking, and from this menu, create a level. But downside of this one is that, let me call this 0, and if you click it, it's going to bring you an empty level. You really do not have anything in here. It's pure empty. And if you want to see something, you want to bring a light into this scene. For example, going to the light and bring a directional light and bring content, and it start populating your world. So this is not my favorite way. So let's go create a new level. And in here, you can start from one of these presets. The first one is an open world. So let me open it. And this is a map to use the open world features inside Unreal Engine. Of course, this is not the only way to create open world levels, but it's here to visualize the world partition in here. It's using this world partition, which is a really good thing when creating open world games. And if you do not see it here, simply let me close it, and simply you need to go to Window, and in here, world partition and world partition editor, and it's going to add that here. Of course, we're going to be talking about the world partition later on, but this is a sample that uses that world partition with a simple level and the streaming capabilities in place. And if you want to create a new open world game without anything, you can use this open world empty, and it has that set up for you, but of course without any prefabs or things like that. it's basically pure empty. And there's another empty in here if you go, and it's an empty level, and it's the same, but it's without world partition and without open world setup for you. And the next one, which is city open world empty, which is, I believe, dedicated to this city sample, and it doesn't exist in other projects. So we leave that on. It's just like this open world, but with the city sample content. And the last one is the basic. And if you click it, it's just like this empty, this one, without world partition or things like that, with simple floor and a simple lighting setup to get you working on. For example, adding things and call it a level. So let's say that we are happy with this level and want to save for any reason, and that might be closing off the day or switching to another level to continue the work. To save that, you simply hold Control and S and get this window, and you can save your level in here. For example, let's call it M underscore new level, or going to file and save current level as. If you want to create a new version from it, or if you want to save it, you simply hold Control and S to save on top of that, and then it's accessible in here as well. And there's a Control Shift and S, which is going to save not only the scene, but every content that you have changed in here is going to be saved as well. For example, we have created a basic material and applied that to this. And let me apply that to all of the mesh. And we hit Control and S, it's going to save the level. But the material isn't saved. And you see the icon in here, this star icon is a sign to tell you that this content has not been saved. And if you hit Control Shift and S, it's going to save the level, and anything that you have changed is going to be saved out as well. And to bring this level back, you need to go to File, Open Level, and find it in here. So to be obvious, let me create a new level, and let's say that we want to bring that back. We go to Open Level and find this and hit open, and we get the last save that we did. And one other way is going into content browser, bringing the content browser in, and in here, let's find the map. It's in here, underline new level, and you get the map and the level. And each level has unique settings which can be used in the world settings in here. And if you do not see that, go to Window, and this world setting brings it up. And in here you have the ability to change the game mode, doing some light mask changes if you want to have baked lighting, and some settings that are mainly advanced settings that later on we might or might not cover. And then in the level editing, one of the most aspects is using the outliner wisely. This outliner is going to contain all of the actors that you put into the scene and have them stacked up for you. And you can find things in here, for example, by searching for the light. You see everything that has a light into it, no matter if it's a type or the name of the actor and things like that. And if you left click on the actor in the details panel, you're going to see the context sensitive menu, which holds the specific properties to that actor. For example, the skylight is different to directional light in details. And you can create folders in here. For example, in the lighting folder, I want to right click and create a subfolder and call it directional. So let's leave the name be. And let's tell that I want to only have my directional light into this level. So I click the actor and drag it in here. Now it's a part of a directional folder, and I can toggle that on and off. And toggling on the folder is going to toggle all of the content that we have under that as well. So this was basics about creating levels and manipulating and working with levels. And in the next lessons, we're going to see what else Unreal Engine has to offer. Okay, see you there. Okay, in previous chapter we talked about the level editor, but this is not the only editor that we have in here. We have multitude of editors and systems that we need to discover. The next editor that we're going to talk about is the blueprint editor. And to access the blueprint functionality, you want to come in here, and these are the blueprint functionalities that you can use. You can create a new blueprint or open the level blueprint and manipulate the look of your level in the programming phase. And this is where we do all of the scripting and gameplay logics that we can create. Of course, to access the blueprint, you can also create blueprints in here. For example, going to blueprint, create a blueprint class actor, and you can access the blueprint in here as well. But the difference is that this is a class blueprint and different to level blueprints. And we're going to explain that later on. Here you can do the scripting. For example, event begin play is going to tell whenever you start a game, you want to do something. For example, turning on the light, or scripting a cinematic, or bringing up a gameplay element. Okay, we're going to talk about that later on. And the next editor that we are going to talk about is the static mesh editor. And let me go find an static mesh. Okay, these are the static meshes. And a static mesh is basically a mesh that is a static, as the name suggests. For example, it's a part of the level, and 90% of the times it's not going to move or do anything. It's going to be there for a purpose. And 99% of the time, these static meshes are something that you create in other applications, for example, in Blender, and import them into Unreal and use in your level. And there are some properties in the details panel in here, which of course override what we create in a static mesh editor. But to access that static mesh editor and have all of the options, you really need to click on one of the static meshes and it brings you to this static mesh editor. And this is where you can assign materials, convert them to nanite, manage LODs, create multiple UVs for that, create collision, and do all sorts of things. And if you do any change to the static mesh, you simply need to hit save, and it's going to save these changes for you. And if you come in here, let me make this window a bit larger. And let's talk about, for example, Lightmap Resolution, which you might need to change if you are using a static lighting. So the Lightmap Resolution in here is 64, and in here let's search for Lightmap. And note that I have selected the same static mesh. And in here we have the Lightmap, and it tells override Lightmap. And the default value is what we have set there. In here it's 64, and if we want to change it, we're going to override it in here. For example, if I want to make it 128, but this is specific to only this actor. And if I drag another instance from this, note that the Lightmap resolution has been defaulted to 64. And if you want all of them to have the same 128 Lightmap resolution, you need to go to the static mesh editor in here and make it 128, for example, and save it. And now you see that the default has been changed to 128. Changing in this details panel is based on instances, but changing in the static mesh editor is going to change the static mesh, not the instance. And for example, now I want to set this one to be 256, and this one is still 128. And if I have 256 all across, I really do not need to bring from here. I want to take this one and do copy, for example, holding Alt and dragging out another copy from that, and you see the override that I have written in here is present in here. And the next editor that we are going to talk about is the material editor. And let me clear out this search. And material editor can be accessed through multiple ways. One of them is creating a material in here and clicking and bringing up the material editor, which you see here, or the other way is selecting an static mesh editor, and in the static mesh editor or the properties panel in here in the material tab, you select one of them, and depending on the type of the material, if it's a master material or if it's a material instance, it's going to bring it up for you. In this instance, it's a material instance. But if you want to see the parent in here, the material instance, go to general and parent, and this is the master material. And this is the material editor. And let me close this so that you don't get overwhelmed because that was an advanced material. Let's go to our material itself. So we have a lot of settings in here to change the look of the material. And in here, you might think of the material as the color of the object. And although it's a color of the object, but it's more than that. In the material editor, we really define the relationship between the light and the surface of the object. For example, how rough it is, what colors it's consuming and what colors it's taking back. If it's a emissive material, for example, if it's shining light, or if it's metallic, or if it's dirty, if it's rough, if it's clean, if it's shiny, it's all going to be created in this window that we call the material editor. Of course, we have a specific chapter to materials, which we are going way more in depth than this. But this is to give you an overview of what tools we have in Unreal Engine. And one good thing about the windows in Unreal Engine is that you can dock them to whatever you want. So now you see we are seeing the material editor, and if I want to see the changes and save, I have to have this opened or bring it to another screen. But a good way to make it more modular is dragging this tab in here and bring it here, and now you have two windows side by side and two of them are open, and you can change them to whatever you want and see the results reflected back in the level editor. And the next editor is the Niagara editor, which is a new feature that was added to Unreal Engine 4.25 or 6, I believe. It's a relatively new feature and it's good for adding visual effects like fire or smoke or dust or anything. And to bring up the Niagara editor, you go to FX, right click, go to FX, and in here you have the Niagara systems, Niagara emitters, and things like that. And although we are going to talk about them later on, let's go create a Niagara emitter. And let's create a new and create an empty Niagara editor. And here you have the system ready for you. And I'm telling you that do not be overwhelmed with the massive appearance that you are seeing here. It's relatively easy to be able to work in here. And in this panel, we're going to create all sorts of environmental effects. For example, dust, fire, smoke, fog, or create explosions, a lighting effect. And basically anything that doesn't fit into material and a static mesh editor and has motion to it, we can create it here. So again, let me close this and close the material editor. And the next editor that we have, which is a pretty important one, is the sequencer, which you can access it by clicking this icon, which you can add a level sequence or add a master sequence. And this is good for creating cinematics or taking renders from your scene. So let me create a master sequence with the default settings, and it has created a sequence for us with a camera. And you can take this camera and move it, for example, animate it, and the result you are seeing that in here. You can animate the camera, rotate it, or do whatever you want and change the results in here so that later on you can create a movie or animation or basically any type of cinematic that you can imagine of, and even cinematics for gameplay purposes. So I'm going to delete that as well. And these were the most common actors that one should have used in the production of their work. And the next ones are specific cases and might not be usable for everyone, but we are going to cover them anyhow. The next window that we're going to talk about is the physics editor and physics assets. And it's mainly good for creating the physics logics for skeletal meshes. For example, the player that you have in the scene, you can create collision for that. You can do all sorts of things. And to create a physics asset, you go to right click and go to physics and create a physics asset. And in here, you want to select a preset you can choose from this drop down menu, which I believe belongs to this city sample, and you cannot see that in other projects if you create them. So now you see it has created some basic collision, and these capsules that you see, and these are collision, and it means that you cannot pass through these, and they're going to block your way. And this is not only for characters, you can bring cars, for example, and create physics for them. But one thing to have in mind is that it should be a skeletal mesh, not a static mesh. And a skeletal mesh is something that you create. It's basically a static mesh that you create rig for, that you can animate. For example, in here you have a lot of skeletal meshes, which are these cars, and you can right click, create physics asset, and create, and it's going to bring it up for you. And in here you can create all sorts of physics logics for it. So right now we're really not doing anything with this, so let's leave it away. The next one is behavior tree, and it's a bit similar to blueprints, and you can create AI and artificial intelligence for NPCs in there. And to create that, you right click, you go to artificial intelligence, and in here you can bring the behavior tree, and in here you can script for the NPCs in here. So like previous one, no, not anyone's cup of tea, and not a lot of people love to program AI for people. The next one that we're going to talk about is the UMG, which stands for Unreal Engine Motion Graphic, and it's accessible in here. You go to user interface and widget blueprint and select this, and it's going to create a widget blueprint, and it's just like a blueprint. And this is the screen that you have, and it's going to hold down the UI of your game, the HUD. For example, the energy bar, the health bar, the progress bar, how many ammunition you have left. You can create them in here. And the next one is the font editor, and as the same, you go to user interface, and instead of that, click on font, and this is the font editor. In here, you can bring in fonts and try to manage them in here, so that if you want your game to have a specific font that is specific to your game's brand, you can bring them in here and start to use them. And the next window is the animation editor, and it's good for animating skeletal meshes. For example, you can bring in the player or this car, for example, and in here you can do many things in the animations. For example, previewing the animation using any animation if you have it. So looks like in this case we do not have an animation to play. So I went ahead and searched through the contents of the city example and found this skeletal mesh. And luckily it has some animations to preview. So let's click on one of them. You see how many frames it takes to complete the animation. And it's going to loop that for you. And if you want to check for other animations as well, you can click on them. You can stop the animation in here and preview it. And you can use these animations in conjunction with the blueprints and other scripting events to make this part of your gameplay. And the next window is called the control rig, and it's good for rigging skeletal meshes directly inside Unreal Engine without using any external application. So to create the control rig, you need to create or select a skeletal mesh. In this case, I selected this, right click, create, and control rig. And when you create a control rig, it's going to create another actor which has the control rig after the name of that. So let's click on it. And in here, you can rig your character so that later on you can animate it in Unreal Engine. And the last type of actors that you can create are the sounds. And you right click, go to sounds and sound cue. And this sound cue is responsible for creating sounds for your game. And it's a mix between blueprints and material editor. But for sounds, you can create sounds, you can loop them so that they loop all across your level without stopping. Actually, you can do all sorts of effects on them. So these were the most common tools that Unreal Engine has to create games and visual experiences. So in the next lessons, we're going to continue our journey in discovering Unreal Engine. Okay, see you there.
Hey guys, Abraham here. I just want to remind you guys that we upload all of our courses to Skillshare. Skillshare is this amazing site where you can access a ton of different content to learn, improve, and grow as an artist. We have all of our courses available to watch and learn from right now in Skillshare. You can check the description down here, and Skillshare is offering 1 free month trial to their premium membership. With this membership, you're going to be able to access all of our courses and watch and learn all of the amazing things that we cover with all of the softwares. So, what are you waiting for? Check Skillshare down here below.